Hello, I'm still not Corey, but I am a former child. So I saw a clip on Twitter of Ben Shapiro getting absolutely owned by a kid, and I thought, I need to watch that video. So you're coming along for the ride with me. We're watching the video together. But first, you must subscribe. Yes, the video will not continue unless you like and subscribe and leave a comment telling me how old you are. What is your age? Let me know. Also, quick little thing, you should check out my merch. We've got stupid baby t-shirts. We have got unicorn beanies. These are subtle pride beanies and they are almost gone. There are like 10 of them left in my house. You can be one of the 10 people that gets them. And if you do, I don't know, I'll write you a personalized little note as well. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Okay, check these out, link in the description. Whatever, let's start the video. Oh, this is where I watched the video. I'm so confused. I haven't filmed a video in so long, like a week and a half or more or less. There is my video. Okay.
So here we are today at a public library. And I know what you're thinking. Ben, haven't you read all the books there already? Of course I have, but that's not why we're here.
It's funny. That's genuinely a joke I would make. Very good.
My producers have given me a stack of cards. They have a bunch of terms on them having to do with the government. I have to explain these to very, very small children in a fashion that kids can understand. So we'll find out how this is going to go.
This is like one of those expert breaks down concept at 5 different levels. Except, I don't know if he's an expert and it's just one level. It's just kids. And also, if we watch the video, I highly doubt he's actually going to break these topics down in a neutral and unbiased fashion. If you've noticed that my sleeves have been rolled up between cuts, first off, stop looking at my arms, you pervert. Second, yeah, these sleeves are too long, so I rolled them up. What about it, huh? Fight me.
I've seen my mom look at him on Facebook.
I love that the reputation of Facebook now is that it's where middle-aged to older adults go to get indoctrinated or like, you know, see a bunch of like conservative memes. I mean, Ben Shapiro's leading into it. I'm glad they're admitting it. They edited this. They get to choose what goes in and they chose this. It's like they want to be made fun of.
You said he was a very smart guy.
Do you think he is?
Well, now that I've met him, maybe.
Maybe. Oh my god.
Freedom. Okay, freedom.
Definition?
Oh yeah, give me the definition, go for it.
America.
Definition of freedom is America. Okay, that's actually, okay, I kind of like that. I'm with you.
Yes, the definition of freedom is America. I bet these kids' parents are conservative. I mean, obviously these kids' parents are conservative, like they're doing a show with Ben Shapiro, but these answers are oh boy!
Freedom is not the ability to do whatever you want. Freedom is the ability to make good choices and have those pay off.
Right. So define good choices. Like, okay, this is, I get it. I get what he's saying. I get that he's simplifying it for children. I don't think he's correct. Good is doing a lot of heavy lifting there, basically.
A lot of people kind of think that freedom is you get to do what you want. So if you want to run into a tree, that's freedom. Yeah, exactly. You shouldn't eat people like that. You don't have freedom to eat.
I would say that you should be allowed to eat people if you have consent from the person. You can eat anyone if they consent. That is your right as an American to eat another American if they say it's okay. That's freedom. Ben Shapiro doesn't want you to be free to eat whoever you want with consent. And that sucks, I think. That is terrible.
My mom and dad told me I was gonna meet Ben Shapiro.
And did you know who he was?
Nope.
Why are you doing this? Usually when you indoctrinate kids, you don't want to like broadcast it, but these kids so far, they don't know who Ben Shapiro is, which makes sense because he's not for kids really. And second off, they're not very impressed by him. It's just a guy that's come in to talk to them, right? That's what it very much seems like. I don't understand why they'd made this video. I mean, obviously because they were paid to do it. Like, it very much comes across as the only reason they had this concept is because they had a sponsor from Conservakids, which, I mean, sure. Okay, that's perfectly fine.
Government is what takes all of your money and gives you very little in return.
That is not true.
Yes, kid, go! You're right, that is not true. I love that he says this to a kid, and the kid is just very like, nah, it's not true. You're wrong. Why are you trying to lie to these kids? You think they're dumber than they are, Ben Shapiro. Those kids are smarter than you give them credit for. They can tell when you're flat out lying to them.
Okay, that's kind of, I mean, it's kind of true. It depends on the kind of government. Yeah, that is what taxes are for, but taxes are theft, children. The reality is that government is necessary so that people don't hurt each other, so that people don't murder each other. Right, so people don't eat people. That's right. You do need a government to prevent people from eating people.
True. Although, again, as I would say, staunch cannibalist myself, I would say that the government is there to regulate people eating people, not to stop people from eating people. Okay? Okay. Anyway, but seriously, like, it's very clear that Ben Shapiro does not think very highly of taxes, which, to be fair, living in America, the way that your taxes go to, you know, the military and not, I don't know, healthcare, I would think taxes suck too. But being in the UK where taxes do go to, like, you know, my healthcare, I wouldn't say it's too bad. I think taxes can be good because, you know, they give us lovely roads to drive on. They give us healthcare so that we may not die. That's quite nice, I think. They give us public spaces that we can exist in. Taxes can be good. They're not flat out bad. They're just poorly managed. I mean, in the current system that we've got, I think, honestly, having no taxes would probably mean that corporations roll in and start doing a worse job for more money. So at the very worst, taxes are, you know, the best of a bad situation, right?
Okay, so the Constitution. Okay, the Constitution is the document that lays out the list of rules for what the government can do and what the government cannot do. So the Declaration of Independence in 1776. So right as we're founding the country, right as the founding fathers are founding the country, in the Revolutionary War, we fought a war against Great Britain in 1776.
Okay, maybe you do know a lot.
What was that?
Okay, maybe you do know a lot. And talk fast.
I do love kids though. Kids, like, as a rule, don't know very much. That's their whole thing. Their whole thing is learning so they can know more. So you can really impress a kid by saying something like really, really basic. And I love that for them. I love that they get to have new experiences and stuff. But also it sucks that their new experiences have to be with Ben Shapiro.
I don't worry about talking too fast with kids because my kids wipe me out. My kids tire me out.
What? What does that mean? Am I missing something? One thing I do have to say to Ben Shapiro's credit is that he seems to be much more comfortable around kids than Matt Walsh was when he did his indoctrination session.
Who knows who the president is right now?
Biden.
Yeah,
Joe Biden.
That's right.
Unfortunately, Joe Biden.
I'm with you.
Unfortunately, Joe Biden.
Yeah, unfortunately, Joe Biden. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, Trump, he is the best.
This is what bothers me about this, is that these are children and they're saying, yeah, Biden sucks. Trump was the best. They have no idea why they're saying that. Their parents have just taught them that, and he's encouraging that. They don't know why people think Trump is bad, and they don't understand why people think Biden is bad. It's just weird to see kids parroting things like that. You have no idea what you're talking about. Don't encourage that. Encourage them to, like, think for themselves and, you know, understand these things rather than just being told Trump good, Biden bad. And bear in mind, I don't care for Biden. I don't really care about Biden. I just think he's better than Trump. I feel like I would explain to a kid why I think Trump is bad, right? I'd present things to them and be like, well, what do you think about this? And see what they think about it. And obviously, a kid's opinion of the president is not very important, but it can be useful to teach children to understand these things from an early age. Obviously, simplified for them to understand it. It just feels dirty to have kids saying that, right?
Okay, do you guys
All
like
taxes
taxes?
are fees that you have to pay for your houses.
Well, yeah, there
And
are
air conditioning and solar.
right. You have to pay taxes on like everything.
Yeah,
Like,
watches,
everything.
electricity.
Not on your income in Florida. Because Florida's amazing.
Electricity.
This is the start in this video of Ben Shapiro talking about how great Florida is, I presume because they're in Florida, but like, it got me to look it up, and is Florida really that? I don't think Florida's that great.
Right. So taxes are the government takes a part of the money that you spend, or the money that you earn, or the property value of your house.
Also, what I love is that Ben Shapiro is simplifying these concepts for children, and he says they take part of the money that you spend or you earn, very easy, kids understand that to some degree, or the property value of your house. A kid doesn't know what property value is, Ben. Come on, Benjamin, explain it so the kids can actually understand what you're saying. They don't know what that means. Explain it to them.
What about debt?
Mostly, yes. I mean, they're supposed to spend it on things like the police. They're not supposed to spend it on just random projects or silly things that they have in their head, and they tend to spend it on kind of silly things very often.
Says who? Says who? What is the government supposed to spend taxes on? Who says the government is only supposed to spend taxes on the police? What? That is ridiculous. Again, in this video, Ben is clearly not a fan of taxes or, like, you know, the government in general. He thinks they should be severely limited to basically just the police, which is so weird, right? It is so odd to say that freedom is being able to make good choices, right? If freedom is being able to make good choices, but taxes are only supposed to go to things like the police, then how are you supposed to be able to make good choices if, say, I don't know, you get ill whilst working in a job that doesn't have great health insurance, and then you're not able to pay for your healthcare, and then so you fucking die? Can you make good choices then, Ben? I don't think so. And you could say, well, you should make the choice to not have a job that doesn't have good health insurance. But the fact is, why is that bad choice there if no one can control whether they get ill or not. Obviously, you can have some control. You can try and live a healthier life, but you can still get cancer. You could not smoke a day in your life and still get lung cancer. So saying that freedom is about making good choices and that the government shouldn't be spending taxes on anything except for like the police and things like that, those two things are genuinely not compatible. At all. Like, they really aren't. If you think about it, how can you be free to make good choices if your choices are so limited by your starting means? If you are in poverty, your choices are limited in comparison to someone who is born to extreme wealth. And in that case, it's very, very difficult to move from a place of poverty into a place of wealth, regardless of what good choices you make. So there isn't really freedom there. But if we had good social programs wherein being born into poverty didn't mean that you were limited in your choices, then you'd probably have more freedom, wouldn't you? But where could that money for those social projects come from? Ooh, taxes probably. Literally, taxes going to silly little projects is actually quite useful for letting people be free. Taxes going to the police, who, you know, maybe have a little bit of a hard-on for incarcerating people, specifically black people, it's probably gonna limit people's freedom. And I know what you're saying. Freedom isn't being allowed to do whatever you want to do. The police arrest you if you break the law, blah, blah, blah. Funneling taxes into the police can result in over-policing, which can result in mass incarceration, which can result in a lot of families growing up on lower incomes, which can result in limited choices, which by Ben's definition is a lack of freedom. His views there are inconsistent. And either he's somewhat aware of that and he doesn't care, or he genuinely believes that you can just choose to not be in poverty.
But as you get older, you'll realize how little you like taxes. Taxes are very, very annoying.
I already think they're terrible.
I think telling kids that taxes are bad from the start is going to make them think that taxes are bad when they grow up. I thought taxes sucked when I was younger. I thought taxes, oh, taxation is theft, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I still think taxes kind of suck now. I don't like giving my money away, especially to a government that I don't think is using it very well. However, I do recognize that taxes are a fairly necessary part of the society that we live in. So while I'm not a huge fan of giving away a chunk of my money every year to a government that I don't necessarily agree with, I am a fan of anyone in the UK being able to walk into any hospital and say, hey, I'm ill, and have the hospital treat them and have the person not worry about whether or not they're going to be able to afford it. Even if it was just that, I would be fine giving away the money that I do. But there are so many other things that my taxes go to which are beneficial not just for me, but for many, many other people in the country. So yeah, taxes kind of suck because it sucks to give money away, but hey, they help everyone, and that is a good thing. This whole sort of selfishness of I don't want to give away my money if I don't need to, it's probably not going to result in more freedom for everyone. It's probably going to result in more freedom for fewer people.
Quantitative easing.
What?
Wow, who put this one in here?
Who put that one in there? I have to say, that is very funny.
All right, are we really gonna do this? We can do this. Okay, so
No.
yeah, I know. I'm with you. The reason that they're laughing is because this is super complicated. You know what a dollar is, right? Y'all used dollars before. How about Monopoly money? Have you ever guys ever played Monopoly? Right. Okay.
Mom and Dad in it.
If you guys went to the store with Monopoly money, could you buy anything?
No.
No, you couldn't. Why not?
Because it's fake.
Because it's not real money. There is an agency of the federal government. It's called the Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve controls how many dollars are out there. If they just print a bunch of dollars and then they just give you those dollars, it turns out they didn't make you rich. All that happened is that your dollar now doesn't buy as many things. If the Federal Reserve just makes $1,000 and gives it to you and gives it to everybody, you can't buy an ice cream bar for $1 anymore. Now the ice cream bar is going to cost like $1,000. Okay, that's what quantitative easing is.
Did he not just explain the concept of inflation more so than quantitative easing? I'm not an economist. I'm not going to pretend I know very much about this particular subject, but it does sound like he just explained inflation, which I guess is what he thinks the result of that is, rather than what the concept is itself. Which is actually kind of a good point here to talk about this. I think it's interesting that when Ben Shapiro explains these things to the children, he's not explaining what they are, he's explaining what he thinks about them. And that's a very, very key difference. It's the difference between teaching and indoctrinating someone, right? It's one of the key differences there, because if you're not teaching someone about what something is, you're teaching them an opinion of that thing, then they are not going to have the understanding of that thing to form an opinion themselves. They're just going to take the opinion that they've been taught because they think the opinion is fact. These kids aren't gonna go away from this thinking, I know what taxes are. Taxes are money that the government takes from the people that live in the country in order to pay for public services. They're gonna think taxes are a bad thing when the government steals your money and wastes it on bad stuff. That's not good. That's not okay. They can form an opinion on taxes when they're able to form an opinion on taxes, but at this point, at this level, they should just understand what taxes are, not what you think of them. It's, it's so, it just makes me feel disgusting.
One of the questions that I frequently get asked is, how do I talk to my own children about conservative values and the things that matter? And my answer is Conservakids. Conservakids brings you books like Home of the Brave, for example, in which they discuss things like American values.
Let's read this book. So this last little paragraph here I think is very interesting. We should look into it. Here are the pilgrims crossing the Atlantic Ocean in a little wooden ship called the Mayflower. They had to be brave to cross a vast ocean in order to worship God freely. We can go to church today because of their courageous journey 400 years ago. Interesting that this book is talking about people going to church and talking about God and whatnot when it's conservakids. Almost as though it's making the assumption that if you're a conservative and you want to teach this kind of stuff to your kids, you're going to be a Christian. Interesting, I think. Not a bad thing that they mentioned church and God, not at all. I just think it's interesting. The fact that they didn't say, we can worship whatever God we like. They say, we can go to church. Very, very subtle difference, but I think an interesting one. So these pages are talking about bravery, like the bravery of the people that signed the Declaration of Independence, the bravery of the people that fought the Revolutionary War. But I think it'd be really interesting if they mentioned the bravery of the people that freed the slaves, or the bravery of the people that stood up for civil rights. Maybe they do mention that. I have a feeling they don't, but maybe they do, and if they do, good job. You've passed a very low bar.
They have values that you can feel comfortable sharing with your children, which is the most important thing. There's so many forces out there that are seeking to twist what kids think. There's so many people out there who want your kids to believe things that they really shouldn't believe, who want to take control of your child's education away from you.
This suddenly got, like, very dark. Let's just watch that again. Oh my god.
There's so many forces out there that are seeking to twist what kids think. There's so many people out there who want your kids to believe things that they really shouldn't believe, who want to take control of your child's education away from you.
Oh my god! That is horrifying! Like, you're just playing into the worries of these conservative parents that are worried about their kids being taught values that they don't want their kids to be taught. Values like, I don't know, trans people are okay and racism bad. Oh god, it's so creepy, right? That they're just playing into that, picking up that fear-mongering there and saying, we know you're scared that your kids will learn values that you're not okay with. So what we've done is made a lovely little propaganda machine for you to feed to your child. There you go. If anyone tells you that you can't teach your child whatever you want about anything, they are wrong and they are infringing on your rights as a parent. This is so horrifying to me, I think. Like, this is the way that this is being marketed. Because I feel like if you look at more sort of leftist or progressive kids' books, they're not marketed as people are trying to teach awful values to your children and we can protect you. They don't need to do that. They just need to say, hey, this book is a really good resource for teaching your kid about trans people. Or this is a really good resource for teaching your child about racism in an age-appropriate way. I don't know if my point is coming across well here, but ultimately, just the way this is being marketed is so uncomfortable. Like, they really need to dig into those fears. They really need to make it seem like everyone is out to get you and your kid. Like, the whole world is out there trying to pull your kid away from you and make them not a conservative like you. It's just like, ugh. This whole thing just kind of comes off like propaganda to me, especially with these couple sentences here. Conservakids is a book series that provides a fun way to have intentional and age-appropriate conversations with your children about core values that make our country exceptional. Each book reinforces American ideals through a story that both kids and parents can enjoy. Ugh. These are things that make our country exceptional. This is why America is the best. What? That's such an odd thing to teach children. I won't get over the fact that American kids are almost brainwashed into thinking that their country is the best, when it objectively is not. By almost every measure you can think of, America does not top the list. It's just not the best country in the world. And yet they teach their kids that, and almost every citizen seems to think that. This is not helping. And also, reinforcing American ideals. That kind of nationalism is so Ugh. I guess if you want your kids to be jingoistic, then sure. Great book series for them, but man, why is it gotta be about being American and having American ideals? Like, I know we do that in Britain to some extent too, but I don't feel like it's this egregious. And when it is, I feel like it is definitely called out very vocally.
You just make great materials. They're safe for all your kids. Not just safe, they're virtuous for you to get for your kids.
Virtue signaling much? Oh, seriously though. Oh god, the way this is being marketed is just so weird, isn't it? Ah!
Okay, go for it.
What do you think about like superstars and athletes talking about politics?
I feel like that kid did not ask that question of his own accord, because I don't think I've known a kid to say superstars and athletes, which to me just makes it seem as though the person writing the questions for the kids didn't think of how children speak, which is the worst part of that, honestly. Feeding questions to kids, fine, but at least make it sound like it's coming from them. This kid could have asked that question himself. It seems like it was fed to him, but he could have asked it himself.
So everybody in the country gets to talk about whatever they want to talk about, but athletes and superstars generally don't know anything about what they're talking about when it comes to politics. When LeBron James says things, that doesn't mean he knows things.
Same for Ben Shapiro. It's not just superstars and athletes, it's many people that comment on things they have no idea about. Like Ben Shapiro, talking about a number of things.
I'm 38, which to you guys seems like super old, right? No? Okay, good, that's true.
My mom's 42. My dad's 52. My dad is 48.
Oh wait, so my kids are grown up.
It's interesting that a lot of those kids, like, they have older parents.
When is Ben gonna admit that he's gonna run for president? If he wanted to be president, he would probably be it tomorrow, but he just talks about it.
What? Does Ben Shapiro talk about being president? I thought this kid didn't know who Ben Shapiro was. I'm so confused here. This doesn't make sense to me. Am I stupid? Maybe. But it still doesn't make sense to me.
Raise your hand if you want Trump to be president. I want you to be president.
Oh, that's nice of you.
I don't know, maybe these kids aren't being natural, but it's just like, to hear kids say stuff like that, it just feels unnatural. I'm not saying this in like a sort of partisan way. If some kid was to be like, raise your hands who wants Biden to be president, raise your hands who wants Obama to be president, I would still think that was weird.
Why are the people angry at the government?
Why are people angry at the government? Because sometimes the government tells us to do stuff the government shouldn't tell us to do.
Is that the only reason people are mad at the government? I feel that's why some people are mad at the government. I don't think that's why most people are mad at the government. I watched ahead in this video and I do know that after this he talks about Roe v. Wade and it potentially being overturned, which, like, sometimes the government tells people to do things that it shouldn't tell us to do, like removing rights for certain people, like people that can have babies, or trans people, or like LGBT people in general. Sure, I mean, I guess I can't hugely disagree with Ben here. Sometimes people have a problem with the government because it tells you to do things that you don't want to be told to do. Or other times it just doesn't do things that it probably should be doing. That's probably a big reason. And I will say, this is one of the first questions from these kids that actually sounds like it came from the kid and wasn't just fed to them by a producer. So good on that kid, I guess.
Do you think homeschooling will ever be banned?
Not in Florida. So I think that there will be places that try to stop homeschooling.
Are these kids all homeschooled? Is that where this is coming from? Are they homeschooled kids? Because I feel like there's this whole thing in America now where, like, a lot of conservative parents want to homeschool their kids to avoid them being exposed to other values at school. I don't know. I mean, I've seen it other places and then it seems to be coming up here. I mean, homeschooling can be a good thing, but it's entirely dependent on who is doing the teaching. Like, for example, I wouldn't mind homeschooling my kids purely for the reason that I want them to have that sort of one-to-one attention so that they can actually have a really solid education without having to send them to private school, which can give a really solid education but comes with a lot of other drawbacks as well. But the reasons that I wouldn't want to homeschool my kids is because I wouldn't want them to miss out on that very essential social interaction. And I know there's like alternatives for homeschooled kids, but interacting only with other homeschooled kids, it doesn't sit right with me. And I feel like if your reasoning for homeschooling your kids is to not expose them to values that you don't want to expose them to, or to have their education be limited in some way, that's bad, right? You shouldn't be allowed to homeschool your kids if you want to homeschool your kids to stop them from learning certain things. That's a bit fucked up.
I come from a state called California, where monsters roam the streets and garbage is strewn everywhere. It's a horror-scape. No, I'm joking.
It is weird to me that Ben here is talking about California as this scary, awful place. These are children. Why are you doing this to them? It is just so off. It's so weird.
They don't actually have real monsters, but it's a really poorly, like the way that they run the state is really bad. So they have lots of crime, they have high taxes.
Crime and high taxes. So yeah, California does seem to have a higher crime rate than Florida, but when you look at the homicide rates or violent crime rates, I think they're much more comparable. And also, yeah, while the taxes are higher in California, the actual rates of poverty in Florida are slightly higher than in California. So sure, they've got lower taxes, but a higher percentage of them are in poverty, so...
Like, I came here because Florida is amazing, guys. You're so lucky to be growing up in Florida. Florida's amazing.
America is the best, but Florida's really hot.
Again, kids thinking that America is the best. That's just like a stock standard thing for kids to think in the US. Americans, if you're watching this, that is weird. That is very, very weird. It is so, so weird. And don't get me wrong, Britain's got the whole Great Britain thing going on, right? Like that sort of nationalism. That is weird too, but thinking that America is the best, despite all evidence to the contrary, is so, so strange.
What does the government do?
What does the government do? Okay, so there's various kinds of government. There's your local government, where you live. And then there's the state government, like the state of Florida, and then there's the federal government. They all do different things. So your local government, they do the police and they do the firefighting. Okay, then there's the state government. The state government decides, for example, how money goes to your local public school, for example, or how taxes get paid, and how roads get made and all that. And then there's the federal government. The federal government, the Constitution says what the federal government can do. Make sure that there's an army and a navy and an air force, and that they are able to protect us against people who want to attack the United States. That's the biggest thing the federal government does.
Is that what the army's for protecting the US against people who want to hurt them? I think it's for other things too. Probably not things you want to tell kids, so I guess saying that to them is fine. Yeah, man. I can't fully fault that. All of this together, it's not this on its own, it's this with everything else that just feels a little off, just a little uncomfortable. Like it genuinely makes my skin crawl.
Yeah.
Do you think Biden actually follows his own law?
I think that Biden kind of makes up the rules as he goes. I don't think, unfortunately, he cares very much about the rules for being president. I think he just tries to do whatever he can do. And then he hopes that nobody stops him.
That's Trump. Ben, he didn't say Trump, he said Biden! You're describing Trump. That is a description exactly of Trump. I'm not sure how it's a description of Biden. If it is, sure, Biden sucks. I don't care. I'm not a big Biden fan. If you're in the comments typing furiously telling me, Corey, Biden sucks, will you? Don't care. He sucks. Fine. Sure. You're describing Trump, my guy. If you dislike Biden for these reasons, and Trump also does all of these things, then you must also dislike Trump for these reasons. But you don't dislike Biden for these reasons, you dislike Biden because he is a Democrat, and that is the true reason. Ultimately, you think that a Democrat is bad no matter what they do, and a Republican can get away with almost anything, evidently. Come on, man, that is blatant. And telling a kid this unsubstantiated crap is so weird, man. It's so weird that you would film this like little indoctrination session and shove it on the internet for everyone to see.
Which is not a very good way of being president. And that's why the founders were really smart. The founders created a system where there are people who can stop you if you break the rules, which is really important.
Fun fact, Trump got stopped from breaking the rules, or at least they tried to stop him from breaking the rules twice. Was he not impeached twice? Did they not try and do that? Interesting that he'd mention the whole system in place for stopping a president from doing bad stuff that they shouldn't be doing. Not mention the most recent president that all those kids were saying was awesome. Try and be unbiased at least, man. At least give it a little go. You're gonna put it on the internet for everyone to see. People like me are gonna see it. At least throw me a little tiny bone, Ben, please. Just a tiny little one.
Do you think China purposefully caused a pandemic?
So if these kids aren't being fed these questions by producers, I am worried about what their parents are saying to them. Jesus, that's a loaded question, I'll say that.
I think that China purposefully covered up the pandemic. It probably started in a laboratory in China, and then it got released, and then they pretended that it was not their fault, and they didn't know what was going on, and they lied a lot, and then it got out and killed a lot of people.
Why would you say that to a bunch of kids? They're not gonna understand it? They don't know what that means. Why would you just tell them these things? Why would you say that? Make them scared of China, make them think China bad. I feel like that's gonna have a knock-on effect of these kids not thinking Chinese people are all that cool. They probably don't understand the concept of China not meaning all of China, as in every single bloody Chinese person. Oh, this irresponsible and stupid things to say to children. God.
Do you think the Supreme Court will overturn Roe versus Wade?
I know I've been saying it a lot. This child cannot say Supreme Court, and we are expected to believe that she of her own accord decided to ask whether the Supreme Court would overturn Roe v. Wade. These kids barely know what government is. We're expected to think that they know what the Supreme Court is and know what Roe v. Wade is and know what Roe v. Wade means? If they do know that, then again, someone please give their parents a call. Maybe their parents shouldn't be making the choices on their education. Maybe that's the case. Wow.
I think the Supreme Court will not overturn Roe v. Wade, unfortunately. I have a feeling that the Supreme Court is going to change the rules of Roe v. Wade, but that doesn't mean they're going to throw it out completely. They're going to do what they always do, and they're going to be confusing that.
Surely, Ben, if freedom doesn't mean being able to do whatever you want to do, but it means having the freedom to make good choices and have those choices, blah, blah, blah. Do you not think maybe for some people abortion is a good choice? It can be useful for them and their lives and helpful to them. Especially given that you seem to think that taxes shouldn't go to, I don't know, helping young mothers so that they can raise their children when they're on low income. So what is it, Ben? What do you want teenagers and college students to do if they get pregnant? Let's say the condom breaks, right? It's an accident, it can happen to anyone, right? Should they just have to live with a kid for the rest of their lives for one mistake they made as a young adult or child? I don't think so. I don't know, man. I don't think that's very free. I don't think the government coming in and telling you what you can and can't do with your body is all that free. And I'll bring it back to the cannibalism. If I want to use my body to feed another human, I should be allowed to. But equally so, if you don't want your body to be used to sustain another human, you should be allowed to choose that for yourself. Boom, the cannibalism came full circle. It was actually an argument about abortion the entire time. That was not planned.
Who is your favorite Democrat?
Wow, that is a difficult question.
I know, right?
Alive? A Democrat who's alive?
We find
Right now, Joe Manchin. Senator Joe Manchin from West Virginia is my current favorite Democrat.
I don't know, maybe if you want this to seem less like indoctrination or propaganda, you maybe give a quick explanation as to like why you don't like those Democrats. It's interesting that he asks if he can choose a dead one, because one can only assume that his favorite Democrats are the ones from back before the parties switched, when the Democrats were very, very racist.
Do you think we can have a stable government again?
I think that the government is still pretty stable, is the truth. We should be grateful to live in a country where the government is this stable. The truth is that if you look at history and if you look at all other countries, there are a lot of countries that really don't have a stable government, and it's really difficult. We're so lucky to live in this country, we really are. So as much as we have problems here in the United States, this is still a fabulous, fabulous country, and we should all really be grateful to live here.
That poor kid who was told, ask Ben Shapiro if we can have a stable government. Go on, kid. I think we do have a stable government. Poor kid. That's a shame. Oh, I feel bad. Feel thankful to live in America because other countries don't have a stable government, blah, blah, blah. Can't disagree with that. That's okay. Well done, Ben. You got one. You did it. Thumbs up for you.
And that I guess is the thing that I would say to all you guys. You're gonna live like for a super long time, and you're gonna get to see all sorts of amazing things happen in the country. And the most important thing to remember is the harder you work, the better your life is going to be. The better the decisions you make, the more responsible you are, the more you help other people, the better your life is gonna be. In this country, which is the best country in the world, if you make great decisions, you're gonna have an unbelievably awesome life. You're gonna make a huge difference in the world. You can make the world a better place.
Very much the American dream, right? And it's nice to give kids that confidence, to teach them that you should work hard, right? And you can achieve things if you work hard. That's a wonderful message to teach kids. In America, it's not necessarily entirely true. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't teach kids that message. I just feel like on top of all the other stuff that he's layered down there, I feel like it does come off as kind of nationalism, that whole sort of area, right? Wherein like this country is great because if you work hard, you can do what you want. And then it ends up resulting in this mindset later in life where if you do well, you think, man, I'm doing so well, and all these other people that haven't done well, it's because they've not worked hard enough. Obviously, they don't deserve anything because they weren't working as hard as me, or helping as many people as me, or all of these things. It's just such a problematic mindset, I find. Like, I don't think it is particularly conducive to a good society, thinking that the only thing that separates the people that are successful from the people that are unsuccessful is hard work, right? Like, I've spoken about it before, and I just flat out disagree with it. And not only do I disagree with it, it's pretty bloody clear from the data that we have that that is the case, that you can't just work hard and get whatever. Or at the very least, you need to be in a good enough position such that your hard work can pay off. Sure, you can work hard to achieve things, but you might have to work a bit harder depending on who you are. Again, it is okay to teach that message to kids to an extent. I'm not saying we should tell kids everything you do is pointless. You're never going to be able to achieve, no matter how hard you work, because that's not what I think. That isn't what I think, and it's not what I'm saying. My point is more that when you teach kids all of those baseline values that Ben has been putting in their little brains, and you go on to say, if you work hard, you can achieve, if you help others, you can achieve, all generally very good things, but it is somewhat tainted by the rest of what he said. The connotations of that message, the underlying sort of values that are there, some of them are good, but then there's also those ideas of like, well, if you work hard, you can be successful, therefore these other people that are unsuccessful didn't work hard and they don't deserve your help. Help other people unless you don't think they're hard workers, because they don't deserve your help. It is a worrisome sort of view that does seem to be quite present in a lot of people nowadays. And this kind of thing is where it comes from, and that's pretty clear.
Do you want to take some of these kids home?
Weird question. I know it can be innocent, but like, producers, please think a little bit more before you ask a question like that. Do you want to take some of these kids home? There's not like a non-weird way to ask that question.
Which is tougher, talking to kids about government or explaining government to Democrats?
Oh, by far, it's more difficult to explain governments to Democrats because they're so certain about the things that they know, and those things are just wrong. Whereas kids just don't know things, and you can actually explain them to them.
Okay, one, funny, can describe Ben himself. He's so certain, but he's so adamant about the things that he knows. Some of those things are just wrong. That is fine. Let's move on from that. It's quite funny because he likes kids because they're open to what he's got to say and they won't disagree with him. They don't have their own views. He can just give them whatever views he wants, which is so clear from what he did, because he didn't say, here are the things, make up your own mind, or like, here are the things and I'll help you understand them so we can understand them together. He said, here are the facts, but actually gave his opinions to these kids, which is just so messed up. You can't be doing that to children, man. You cannot be giving them opinion under the guise of it being fact, because they will internalize that and they will carry that throughout their life. What you're doing is like quite literally indoctrination. Like, I'm sorry, it's not just the values that you're teaching. It's not just that you are a conservative and you are teaching them. The fact is that you are not giving them the space to actually understand anything for themselves. You're just saying, here is what I think. It's the fact that he's just giving them opinions and not really asking what they think about things other than the stuff that they really just kind of obviously get from their parents. He's not teaching them how to think, he's just teaching them what to think. Doesn't sit right with me. One thing I do want to point out in this video is that all of these kids seem to be white, which is fine, don't have an issue with it. Just interesting that that all the parents that said yes to letting Ben Shapiro talk to their kids, all of them seem to be white. That is so funny and so telling. Again, I'm not saying that, you know, it's racist to not include kids that aren't white. I just think it's so interesting and so indicative of the kind of people that like Ben Shapiro. I'll say that. Let's leave it with that one. I know the lighting is different in this shot, but I finished filming the video and I'm coming back to add something in because I thought of something and I wanted to say it in the video. It's my video, I can do what I want. Anyway, people complain about drag queens doing like story time with kids in libraries, and this is so much worse. These are the kind of people that think that drag queens shouldn't be allowed to read to children because it's bad for them or it's indoctrinating them, when they're literally just reading them storybooks. But Ben Shapiro can go to a public library and like literally indoctrinate children and it's totally fine. It is so f***ed up. It is so f***ed up what he is doing. It is really weird. It's incredibly uncomfortable. It is not something that I would do and then go and post about on the internet. It is embarrassingly weird. Just like blatantly indoctrinating kids. Just so obviously. That's what I wanted to say. The drag queens read to kids and conservatives go nuts. But conservatives indoctrinate kids and they're like, yeah, let's do more of that. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you want to know where I got the statistics that I kind of mentioned earlier, I'll leave the links over on Patreon. And speaking of Patreon, here are my patrons going past. You should be one of them. It would be very helpful to me. It helps me make these videos. It helps me make them more often, makes me make better, all of that sort of stuff. It'd be very nice if you could just, I don't know, sign up. Even if it's like £1 a month. It's nothing, but it's very helpful to me. It's very helpful, be very kind. Also, you know, like I said, check out my merch, like this video, subscribe, comment telling me what your age is. Just say it in the comments, just put the number. Or put it in words. I don't know, just leave a comment. Or, I don't know, tell me you enjoyed the video. I'm very tired now. I think that's all I need to say. Goodbye.